Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I'm Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us, coming to you from Washington's premier indoor shooting facility. Of course, that's Security Gun Club right here in Woodinville, Washington. You know, California, every time that I actually think that your state cannot get any crazier, anytime I think there is no way that a state legislature could hate its citizens more than the California state legislature, along comes something like Senate Bill 1160. This is a bill that's sponsored by State Senator Anthony Portantino, and it will, in fact, create a gun registry. And many of you go, oh my gosh, wait a second, that's not allowed under the law. That's not constitutional. Well, when has California ever let that get in the way? So today, let's spend a few minutes and let's talk about the bill to force a gun registry in California. Okay, hey, listen, before we get going too far down the road, the person who tipped me off on this Senate bill and sent it to me right away, of course, that is my first ever California subscriber, none other than Philip P. down there in California, who's been spreading the gospel of Washington gun law for quite some time now. Philip, thanks for everything. This video is for you. We're talking about Senate Bill 1160, sponsored by Anthony Portantino, a bill that would force all California gun owners to register their firearms. Whoa, you sit there and go, wait, isn't there some law that says that that's unlawful? Yeah, there is actually. It stems from the Firearm Owners Protection Act of 1986, a huge piece of legislation, had some good things to it, had some not so good things to it, that was signed by President Reagan. But one of the things that the Firearm Owners Protection Act created was 18 United States Code Section 926, which specifically reads, no such rule or regulation prescribed after the date of the enactment of the Firearm Owners Protection Act may require that records required to be maintained under this chapter or any portion of the contents of such records be recorded at or transferred to a facility owned, managed, or controlled by the United States or any state or any political subdivision thereof, nor that any system of registration of firearm owners or firearms transactions or dispositions be established. Now, I know that's wordy, but pretty simple English still in there, and I think it makes it pretty clear that the federal government nor any state can establish a firearm registry. Well, apparently, Senator Portantino never got that memo, because the summary to Senate Bill 1160 reads, this bill would require every firearm in the state, except those specifically exempted, to be annually registered with the department. Well, that sounds an awful lot like a gun registry, doesn't it? What does the legislation actually say? Well, it says the following: except as specifically exempted in Section 25288, every firearm that is kept in this state shall be annually registered with the department by the owner of that firearm as required in this division. So it's every firearm every year. And then there's more. Annual registration shall be accomplished in a manner and form prescribed by the department. Annual registration shall include the payment of an initial or renewal registration fee in an amount determined by the department. Now, California, when we've seen what's happened with your concealed carry licenses, what we've seen what's happening with your mandatory training requirements, is there any wondering what kind of gamesmanship is going to be played then should this be enacted into law when it comes to how you could register your firearm annually? And listen, even if they start with reasonable fees, don't worry. This legislation has a built-in accelerator clause. It reads as follows. The department shall establish and collect the original and annual fees for firearm registration required by this division. These fees shall not exceed the amount necessary to cover the cost incurred in the administration and enforcement of this division. The department shall annually adjust these fees as necessary. Now, if this were to be enacted into legislation, and let's say you decided, well, I don't really want to register my firearm, what are your choices? Well, The bill states, any person choosing not to register a firearm they own may surrender the firearm to any local law enforcement agency. That's nice of them. Or this may happen. Commencing on July 1st, 2025, any person who owns, possesses, or has custody or control over any firearm subject to registration pursuant to this division that is not currently registered is guilty of an infraction punishable by a fine of $1,000. Now, the good senator may actually state that, well, this isn't really creating a gun registry. As a matter of fact, it appears that he, or at least the staff member, was familiar with 18 United States Code Section 926, so he has added this language to the statute. Pursuant to Section 926 of Title 18 of the United States Code, the Department shall not use any records described in that section for the establishment, maintenance, or enforcement of the system of firearm registration established by this division. Well, Senator, then what the hell else would they be mandating collection of all of this data for? And despite the fact that you may say, well, this isn't really meant for a firearm registry, let us also point out that your bill states the following. The Department shall establish the registered firearm file, a searchable database of registered firearms that shall be made available through the California Law Enforcement Telecommunications System for legitimate law enforcement purposes. So, he drafts a bill that states this is for a gun registry. He then states that all of the data collected will be used for a gun registry, but then adds language in the bill that says, well, this isn't really a gun registry. California, I honestly don't know who hates you more, your governor, your attorney general, or your state legislature. The Senate bill once again is SB 1160. We will link it up down below. It is absolutely one of the most atrocious pieces of Second Amendment legislation to come along in a long time, even by California standards. If you got any other questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, you guys should know how to get a hold of Washington gun law by now. If you don't, that's okay. That information is also down there in the description box. Now, let's everyone remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation, how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay safe.